So, a couple issues right off the bat. We're floating up in the air, and we can still see this random dude behind us. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to enlarge this picture of Rob and I so that we cover up our random person in the background. You can see by adding that extra selection to the space between Rob's legs there, we can now see through the picture. So I need to be careful about where we're positioned so that we don't see parts of the random guy. Put it right about there. Now another issue I can see right away is that Rob and I are a little too dark, and even the snow itself is a little too dark compared to the background. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to darken the background a little bit to be more in line with the photo we have here. So to do that, I'm going to click on layer 1 in my layer window so that it's selected. Then I'm going to go to Image, Adjustments, and I'm going to start with brightness and contrast first. And I'm just going to bring down the brightness a little bit. And then I'm going to go to Image, Adjustments, Hue, and Saturation. Now, what hue does is it changes it more to different colors, basically on the color wheel. I don't want to do that, but just so you know that it's there. If you want to make things more greenish, you can. If you want to make things more blue or more red, you can. Saturation, I'm going to turn down a bit to make things a little more gray because the picture that I started with for my background was on a very bright and sunny day. And the picture of Rob and I was on a day when it was snowing. And I'll change the lightness as well. It looks like we could blue shift this a little bit to fit better with the image of Rob and I. Okay, so now I've adjusted the background so that it's a little bit more in line with what's going on in the photo that I cut and pasted. Now, chances are you're unlikely to pick anything quite as complex as what I'm doing here. But now you can see we have this weird square edge at the bottom around Rob's board and my board. So I'm going to go on to layer 2, and I'm going to use my pen tablet for this, so hopefully you've got yours out. I'm going to start by selecting the eraser tool, which is over here. And just like we can pick paint brushes, we can also pick them for the eraser. I'm going to find a brush that has softer edges and more of an airbrush look. I'll pick one that's pretty big, 35. I might actually make that a little bit larger. And again, I'm going to turn down the opacity on my brush just a bit, somewhere under 50%. I'm going to go about 30 for this. What I'm going to do is just carefully kind of brush away and erase at the edge of the snow here with Rob's board and my board. Make sure you're on the right layer. I made sure that I'm on layer 2 here in the layers window before beginning to brush. But what that's going to do is it's going to soften that hard rectangular edge that I had. I don't know why my computer's running so slowly right now. Alright, so I bit away at that edge a little bit. I'm going to soften this one a little too back here. Alright, so that's pretty good. The snow blends in with the other snow pretty well at this point. Not perfect, but it'll do for now for a quick demo. Alright, problem number 2 now is that I still have a random cutoff square-edged board here. Now, there are a few ways I can fake this. One would be to try and copy and paste this end of my board onto this end of my board, but that's going to look a little bit odd. I could also try to steal the end of Rob's board here and see how that goes. Or I could just pretend that it's under more snow and look for some more snow cover. I think in this case I'm going to steal part of Rob's board and try and attach it to mine. So to do that, I'm going to select the lasso tool, which is up here. And again, I'm going to use my pen tablet, but I'm just going to draw around the outside of Rob's board. Doesn't matter if it's quite perfect on the edges, and I'm actually going to let it grab a little more snow. When you draw the outline, it'll eventually close up and you'll have, again, a marquee with your ants marching around the outside. I'm going to press Control C, and I'm going to press Control V. And what that's going to do, it's going to cut and paste what I drew around onto its own layer. So you can see layer 3 appeared here, and the only thing on layer 3 is that board end. I need to change the size of it a little bit to fit on my board. You can see part of my board's gone a little transparent, and that's okay. So now I just got to make that look like it's in the right place. I'm going to do that by doing a little more erasing. Oops, I'm on Paintbrush. A little bit more erasing right on the edge of the board that I stole from Rob's here. Let's give it a little bit of a softer fit onto what's there. And if I find that that's pretty close, I'll go back and select the Paintbrush tool again. Wow, Photoshop is really running slow for me today. I'm going to take the paintbrush. And remember, if you hold down Alt and tap a color, it'll select whatever color you tap up there in the foreground box. I'm going to try and get the color of the snow right here and just extend it a little onto my board. So I'm going to hold down Alt, tap it, again with a low opacity airbrush, and I'm just going to bring some of that gray over into this section. All right, so that gave me a cheap and easy fix to my snowboard issue. Now I have all these extra layers, and really I want everything to be on the same layer as Rob and I. So what I'm going to do is click on layer 3 copy. I'm going to hold down Control, and I'm going to press E, and that's going to merge down. So now all of the extra snowboard is on one layer, and I'm going to press Control E again, and that's going to put it all on the layer with Rob and I. So fewer layers I have to worry about, the easier things are going to be. So the next thing I'm going to do to add a little more realism is add some shadows. Now you can see for the most part there's shadows falling to the right of all of these piles of snow. So I'm going to add a little bit of shadow underneath Rob and I and a little bit to the right. So I'm going to make sure I'm on my background layer, and I'm going to press Control Shift N because I want to create a layer between my background and between Rob and I. Once I've done that, I'm going to select the paintbrush tool, which is over here. And then I'm going to find another shadow that's somewhere in the picture and select that color. So once you bring up the color picker by clicking your foreground color box, anywhere you click in the photo, just like when you hold Alt, it will grab that color. So I'm going to grab this gray off of that shadow. I can see part of it isn't showing because I have some snow left over from the layer that Rob and I are on. So I'm going to actually go back and erase some of that to help the shadows stand out a little bit more. That's really the only shadowing I need to add because Rob has snow on the front of his board. I can add a little bit here on the end, but that's really going to be it. I don't want to add too much shadow because it's going to look like I'm floating in the air, and that's kind of what's happening now. So I'm going to go back actually and erase some of what I did. So the further away a shadow gets, the higher up the object has to be. So I'm going to get rid of some of it. There, that's a little bit better. So just a little bit of shading underneath to kind of bring some weight to the picture. I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I'm going to click on layer 2, press Control E, and merge it down.